Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for over a decade, also the public address voice for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. And I've also contributed to Defend the Nest for the San Diego Gulls. And I've been covering minor league hockey for about a decade. So once again, thanks for tuning in to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, your team every day. And it is Gulls Thursday. It's a late night Gulls Thursday. And the reason it's a late night Gulls Thursday is because I had a Firebirds game on Thursday. I think one of only one or two Thursday games at Acrisure Arena. So that's why this Thursday one is late. And also, last night's game at San Diego went very late, as you may have seen. So I didn't get home till very late, had to come here. So just put everything together. And here we are for Gulls Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. And there was a lot to get to on this game. We're going to talk about the new kids. We're going to talk about last night's game. And then we're going to talk about what's next for the Gulls. Because as you probably already know, the San Diego Gulls, just like the Anaheim Ducks, are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. We'll talk about that towards the end. But first, my big thing is that there's a lot of new kids coming through the San Diego Gulls and coming through the Anaheim system. With the college season winding down for some of these kids, that means we're going to get the obvious, like the Black Aces. The Black Aces are coming not just through San Diego, but San Jose has a bunch of Black Aces. I had to announce over a dozen scratches for San Jose. They got their Black Aces, and so does San Diego. And I got to talk about some of these Black Aces that are coming in that could be the future, probably not for the Anaheim Ducks, but could be the future for the San Diego Gulls in the near future. And I'm going to first talk about the ones that actually did play in San Diego. And it's got to start with Sam Colangelo, who got signed to a PTO, not an ATO. Sam Colangelo's season has just ended. So he was the one that got signed and could play right away with the San Diego Gulls. And I'm like, okay, that's a pretty big deal. Sam Colangelo, once again, on a professional tryout. This was announced on April Fool's Day of all days. But still a big deal for the San Diego Gulls because he is a dynamic scorer. Defense could still use some work, but one of the better scorers in NCAA. He was tied for fifth amongst NCAA players in goals this season with 24 while scoring 43 points for Western Michigan University. They had just been eliminated the week before. So that means that with the Broncos out, Colangelo gets signed by the Gulls and came at a really good time as well. So got to give props to that. Another signing that I'm actually really interested in, by the way, is defenseman Andrew Lucas. Now, he's on an ATO, an amateur tryout, 25 years old. He might not get any playing time. He did play a bunch of games with the university for UConn and scored 16 points with a +3. Pretty solid defenseman, pretty decent. He was the captain for the Vermont Catamounts from 2020 to 2022. Always good to get more defensemen. And then we had a couple of other signings just yesterday. It was right before the game that the Ducks signed Igor Sidorov and Colson Petra to 3-year ELCs or entry-level contracts. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with the entry-level contracts, that is typically signed after they finish their time in juniors. Igor Sidorov is a recent draft pick. He recently played in the WHL and led the WHL in game-winning goals and was tied for third in the WHL in power play goals and fourth with 50 goals this season. He had 88 points, so he averaged over a point a game with the Saskatoon Blades. Now, their season is now done, so that means Sidorov does get to sign that ELC. And also the first player from Saskatoon to reach the 50-goal mark since 96. And in that league, in the WHL, getting to the 50 mark is a big deal. We know he can score. And something that I had to kind of look at this morning and see how he scored a lot of his goals and see where he kind of was. This is a kind of player that you want on San Diego. You want someone that is going to finish goals. I know San Diego and Anaheim, for that matter, has had that issue where they have guys that just pass the puck way too dang much and not enough finishers. And Sidorov is someone that will kind of pound his way into the crease. He will finish. He will block goals. Like, he's very good around the crease. Someone that could fit with San Diego's future. So I like this ELC. And then you have Colson Petra, another recent draft pick. Petra, he scored 55 points in 55 games with the Flint Firebirds of the OHL. So he actually averaged exactly a point a game. And he was the captain of the Firebirds for the second half of the season. He got 27 points this season. Also got 3 shorties this season. So very good on the PK. I haven't watched as much film on Petra, I'll admit. But he was the 3rd round draft pick from this recent draft. So Petra, I've seen some film on. A solid PK guy, but also has the ability to finish. Not as good as Sidorov, in my opinion. I think Sidorov is a little bit more dynamic scorer, a little bit more finesse scoring as well. I don't know if I can make any comparisons with any current Ducks, but Sidorov is someone that could be a very solid depth forward moving forward for the San Diego Gulls. And I would expect him to play in San Diego. I mean, he is good enough to crack the Gulls roster right away. And you always need someone with that kind of speed, that kind of ability to get into the dirty areas, into the home plate area. And finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Cutter Gauthier, who is still playing in the Frozen Four, and he's also a finalist for the Hobie Baker Award. I'm not sure if he's going to go through San Diego. The only way that he plays in San Diego is if he starts off the season with the Gulls, because, Cutter Gauthier hasn't really played any professional hockey yet. And given the slew of young guys that the Ducks already have, it's going to be tough for Cutter Gauthier to make the Ducks roster right away, especially if the Ducks do make some moves and make some signings this offseason. But in my opinion, I think he's just about ready to make the Ducks, but it isn't going to be easy. Like, I'll put it out there. It's not going to be easy for Cutter Gauthier to make the Ducks right away because he is still young. He just turned 20 years old recently. And he is coming off of a stellar season in Boston College. I would think if the BC Eagles do win the Frozen Four, then he might just say peace out and go right away to the Ducks. He could start off with the Gulls. He could play maybe 2-3 games. I could see that happening if BC does wrap up in a few days. The Gulls still play into the 21st. We could see Cutter Gauthier playing here at Acrisure Arena in April 20th, I want to say, is the Gulls Firebirds game here at Acrisure Arena. So we could see Cutter Gauthier play one of his first professional games for the Gulls because the Ducks season will be over by then. There'd be no reason to play Gauthier with the Anaheim Ducks. So just send him to San Diego right away, get him 2-3 games. That I could see towards the tail end of the season. So I would be excited to see both Sam Colangelo and Cutter Gauthier maybe on the same power play 2 unit, which I will talk about when I do my recap of the game. But just Colangelo and Gauthier alone, for what it's worth, even though the Gulls are out, it could be a fun few final games to see those guys out on the ice. So it's possible that he could be a black ace. Not a given, but it could happen. All right, we're going to head to the first intermission, and I will talk about the game against the San Jose Barracuda, who the Firebirds just beat, by the way. So I'll talk about that on the other side. Now a brief word from eBay Motors. And I've talked about eBay Motors plenty on this podcast because we talk about passion, drive, and patience underlined. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Gulls, which is under the umbrella of Locked On Anaheim Ducks and part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. Let's talk about the game, last night at Pechanga Arena. Yeah, that game, it could have been short. It could have been a 2.5-hour game. But no, it had to go to overtime. Then it had to go to a shootout. I'm like, guys, I have a game tomorrow night. I'm already tired as it is. Just end it. No, we had to make it exciting. And we had to go to a shootout. I mean, for what it's worth, it was one of the more entertaining games of the season. I'll say that. And poor Callan McClurg, fighting allergies. Callan is a trooper, announcing all those goals, especially Sam's first AHL goal with all that gusto. So just got to give my props to Callan McClurg, or McClung, the PA voice for the San Diego Gulls. Yeah, he worked his butt off on that game. So once again, just got to give my props to Callan. You did your best, buddy. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. So let's talk about the game, shall we? This was the professional debut for Sam Colangelo, his first AHL game, his first professional game. So first off, congrats to Sam for making it to the AHL. He slotted in line 2. Braden Tracy was in that middle 6. So to see Sam Colangelo on that line with Andrew Agozzino and Pavel Regenda, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, to put Colangelo on a wing with the Regenda agenda, give me more of that. That line was exciting to watch all night. I mean, yeah, the King, God, and DeLeo line was also exciting to watch. But as far as puck movement and as far as, easing into the zone, I love that line. Regenda, we know, is very good at, he's good at zone entries. Sam Colangelo, also very good at entering the zone. And this was something that I paid attention to massively all night, was how they moved with the puck, how the lines, fared with, how players played with each other, how they got into the zone. And zone entries, I was really paying attention to because I wanted to see, if they improved on that through the season. And at least for that line, there was some marked improvement. I'll say that. Right away, I could tell that he was going to fit in very well. And he even started the game. He started. To have that kind of pressure right away, big deal. But the first goal came very early in the game from Nathan Gaucher, from Nick Wolf, and Judd Caulfield. Just a filthy goal, something that I love seeing. I love seeing those kind of just, nice passes from, it was a nice pass from Caulfield to Wolf, and he just rifled it towards the net, and it deflected right in front. And, that's what it was, a Gaucher goal, making it 1-0 early on. Then we had a power play for San Diego, and this is where I really started paying attention to who was going to be that second unit. And sure enough, we had Postajov, Nestorenko, Regenda, Hellison, and Sam Colangelo on that second power play. This is where I noticed that the puck movement, I think, was better from the second PP than the first one. The first one, you had your usual vets. You had Chase DeLeo in that power play 1 unit. You had the vets. And the puck movement was good, but it just seemed to flow better with PP2. Ducks fans might be familiar with me saying that the second power play unit was better than the first one as far as, moving around, as far as getting quality shots. I mean, no offense to the first unit. Like, the first unit is still good, but the second one just had a little bit of an extra kick, a little bit more energy. Maybe that was because, Colangelo was a bit more excited. I could see that, but I liked watching it. And as far as the power play, they didn't score on that one, but they got a couple of good opportunities on that one. Later on, Kyle Rao scored on the power play, and, Stalock looked shaky there. And then the second goal, Ben King, stand by Ben King on just a perfect pass from Chase DeLeo and Glenn Godden, 2-1 San Diego. Then with a few seconds left, 9.9 to be exact, the Gulls did relax a little bit. Stalock looked shaky towards the end of the period, and Scott Saverin just fired it home. The former San Diego goal and Ontario Reign player made it a 2-2 tie, but San Diego, 16-7 shots in the first period. Dare I say, the Gulls looked really good that first period. It shouldn't have been 2-2. They just relaxed way too much at the end of that first period, something they shouldn't freaking do, but that is what it is. Then in the second period, that's when things got a little bit fun. That's when Sam Colangelo got his first AHL goal that you saw in the intro, by the way. That's what the intro was. Oh, sorry. The intro wasn't that. The intro was something I'll talk about later. I didn't get video of the first goal, but Sam Colangelo on a perfect pass from Andrew Agozzino. So congrats to Sam Colangelo, his first professional goal. I could tell that Callan hyped up that call. Then exactly 6 minutes later, Philip Bystedt scored the game-tying goal. All right, so now it's 3-3. Ugh. And then a nice pass in front of the crease made it 4-3 San Diego. Bystedt's second of the game. Oy, oy, oy. And then exactly halfway through the period, it was the Maple Bro, Trevor Carrick, tying it up at 4 goals apiece. And that was a perfect pass from Judd Caulfield. Then just a minute later, Ethan Cardwell made it 5-4. And I went, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, Tyson Hines, he got caught flat-footed on that one. But to be honest, Hines looked flat a lot of this game. I think he was the one defenseman that, if I'm going to nitpick a little bit, Tyson Hines, I'll just put it this way. He had a tough game. Tyson Hines had a -3, but even with the eye test, even watching left and right, Hines was beaten badly on a couple of those goals. And the reason I pointed it out the second time was because it was really noticeable on that second one and just getting caught flat-footed throughout the game. And he missed more than a couple of assignments. This was probably one of his worst games as a San Diego Gull. And this is me just being completely honest to you all. That's me nitpicking. Drew Hellison, I thought, was fine in this game. Luka Profaka, I thought, was okay. Robert Haig had a not-so-great game, but Tyson Hines, buddy, you cannot leave someone that open. So that made it 5-4. And then we go to the final goal in regulation. This was the one that had me the most excited. That's the goal that you saw on the intro. On the power play. And the reason I was excited, I was like, okay, power play, they could tie it up right here. This is it. And this was on the Kyle Rao interference. Sam Colangelo, the perfect presence of mind to pass it to his right, a diagonal pass right to Sasha Pastujov, and Pastujov passes it to his left, sees a wide open Pavel Regenda. The Regenda agenda strikes, and that tied it up at 5 goals apiece, 5-5. So we go to overtime. Couple of good saves here and there. Then we go to a shootout. And in that shootout, Nesterenko didn't score. Gushchin didn't score. So then we had Tristan Robbins. He's denied. So then we go to Ben King on the shootout, and he did not miss. So then we go to Philip Bystedt, who had 2 goals already in this game, and he got denied by Alex Stalock. That's your game winner. Final score, 6-5 in a shootout. Oh, man. Alex Stalock, 36 years old, got the win on that one. His first win in a while, by the way. But congrats to Stalock on the victory. His first win since October 13th, 2023. That's opening weekend. So good for Stalock to finally get his second win of the season. And everybody was jumping. You know what? Actually, I'm going to show the video right now. Did you notice that Sam Colangelo was one of the first guys to congratulate Alex Stalock as soon as he stopped that one? That's just a great video. So final score 6-5. Gotta love it. All right, we're going to head into the second intermission and talk about what's next for the San Diego Gulls. We'll get to that on the other side. Now, a brief word from Robinhood Retirement. And I've talked about Robinhood on this podcast before, but did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood even boosts every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. The offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Welcome back to Locked On Goals under the umbrella of Locked On Anaheim Ducks and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, or TLOPN. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. We're running a bit late, but I do need to talk about this. Despite the fact that the San Diego Gulls won last night at Pechanga Arena, they were still mathematically eliminated from the playoffs because the Bakersfield Condors won at home. So that means that the San Diego Gulls are officially mathematically eliminated from playoff contention for the second year in a row. And it is disappointing for Gulls fans, especially after 2021, that kind of quasi-playoff when there was the bubble. 2022, they made the playoffs, got swept by the Ontario Reign. So now it's 2 years in a row where San Diego got eliminated. And as I mentioned, Bakersfield did win last night against the Tucson Roadrunners 4-1. So as soon as that game went final, I got a text saying they're eliminated. So I'm like, oh, here we go. So even before the Gulls finished their game, they were mathematically out, which means we have our 7 teams for the Pacific Division playoffs. And I'll just go through those 7 teams really quickly because I have the standings in front of me, because I already do. The Firebirds, as of this recording, have 91 points. Their magic number to clinch a division is only 5. 5 points in 8 games. Yeah, they got this. So the Firebirds will get the first round bye. Second place, the Ontario Reign with 81 points. The Tucson Roadrunners and Colorado Eagles at 79 points. Then the Abbotsford Canucks, 78 points. Bakersfield and Calgary at 76 points. So 2nd through 7th place are separated by only 5 points. So any of those teams could be 2 through 7. It could change in an instant this weekend. I mean, it could be Calgary as the 2nd seed. You never know. Calgary could win their last 6 games and somehow catapult to 2nd. Bakersfield could win their last 7 games. They could be 2nd. Ontario, they could lose, 6 of their last 7 games and plummet all the way down to 5th or 6th. So it is that close. You absolutely never know in this league, especially when the points are that close. You just never know. So just wanted to get that update out of the way. But the Gulls are eliminated. So what does that mean for the future? That means it's back to the drawing board for both the Ducks and the Gulls. This is the 2nd time in a row that both the Ducks and the Gulls are not making the playoffs, which means there won't be a whole lot to talk about as far as hockey's concerned on this podcast, but there's going to be a lot to talk about as far as what has to happen this offseason, what went wrong, and, what happened this season for San Diego. Well, injuries again. Chase DeLeo was out for a little bit this season. Chase DeLeo did come back pretty quickly, and Chase DeLeo has looked, pretty good this season, but there were a lot of games this season, especially when he first came back, where it didn't look like he was 100%. And I could tell, he's battling this season. And I would hope that a full offseason and just a lot of rest, and he will be 100% for the entirety of next season. So, Chase DeLeo definitely battling through injuries, and you could tell he hasn't been 100% all season long, so that's a part of it. And he is the captain. He is the heart and soul of this San Diego Gulls team. So I sincerely hope that he has a great summer. He, gets back to complete 100%. And I will say this, Gulls fans, if Chase DeLeo does come back to 100% next season, playoffs. I'm putting out there right now. So I'm just saying it. I think he's that important. And also, you got to look at some of the young guys for the Ducks and the Gulls. What do I mean by that? Well, Cutter Gauthier, like I mentioned, it is possible that he could be a black ace for the final 3 games of the season that the Gulls play, 2 of which are against the Coachella Valley Firebirds. And I say that because there's a home and home at the end of the season, and that goes into games coming up. San Diego has Tucson for a back-to-back at Pechanga Arena. One of those is emo night, by the way. I'm sure they're going to go all out. Then they're at Bakersfield. Then they're at Ontario, at Coachella next Sunday. Then they're on the road at Colorado. It's possible that Cutter Gauthier could join them for that road trip, perhaps at Coachella Valley next Sunday. That could be his first game. It could be the games at Colorado. And then the final games, 20th and 21st. The 20th is at Pechanga. And the 21st, I beg your pardon, is here at Acrisure Arena. I would expect a couple of more black aces to come through. And I would expect possibly Cutter Gauthier to play on one of those or both of those games. So that's where I look to the future, because the Ducks have a slew of young guys on their roster. And as I mentioned, it is possible that Gauthier could make the Ducks. And if he does make it, then there could be some other young talent that would come down to San Diego. Look, there's a reason that the Ducks are ranked as one of the best, prospect pools in the entire National Hockey League. They have a deep pool of players. And as long as they're healthy, Tristan Luneau, he's been out with a knee infection. Now, the good news is he is back skating. It looks like he's not going to play anymore this season because, Ducks and Gulls are both eliminated. But it is possible that he could come back completely 100% next season. And Luneau, I would think, should crack the Ducks roster, which means that there's going to start to become a logjam on defense. And which other young defensemen are going to be sent down to San Diego? So because of that logjam, you're going to have some really talented players in San Diego. So that's something to keep an eye on. And obviously, it's going to hinge greatly on next year's rookie camp, which I am more than excited about. It could depend on next year's training camp, their exhibition games. Whichever players come out and make Anaheim, you would bet your you-know-what that there's going to be a chip on some of those players' shoulders in San Diego. They're going to want to make the Ducks roster big time. So that's something that we need to look forward to in the future. And to be very honest, if I'm a Gulls fan, I'm extremely excited about next season. When I talked to Callan after the game, he said, you know what? Like, going into last night's game, he kind of had a feeling that the Gulls will be eliminated, but he's really looking forward to next season. And I would hope to have Callan on soon to talk about that and have some other guests on to talk about that for the Gulls' future. But for this season, once again, they're mathematically out of playoff contention, and that's a shame. But hey, if you Gulls fans want to come down here to Acrisure for the last few games, you know, it's a fun vibe here. Yeah, we'll have a good time. And I hope to see some of the Gulls fans again for this one. And by the way, a quick shout out to the Gulls fans that I visited with last night at Pechanga Arena. Y'all are awesome. Always love to Jeff Bush with his awesome hats. And because I know she listens once in a while, I will give a shout out here and my apologies. So a shout out and an apology. Yes, I'm doing that to Samantha Potter, who, yeah, the audacity of me to do this, kind of jokingly. Sam is a longtime fan. She's a season ticket holder. Yeah, I'm like, oh, are you here? Like, oh, duh, of course she's here. Like, stupid me. So got to give my shout out to Samantha, even though I saw her after the game last night. I will give you your shout out on this podcast. So there you go. And hopefully you get to visit here at Acrisure later this month. All right. That's going to do it for this podcast. Once again, thank you all for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc., etc., etc. You can follow me on X, comme ça, at StimpyJD. The show's X is at LO_Ducks. And you can also apparently find me on AHL TV. I'll also give a quick shout out to JD, the other JD Young from Locked On Sharks, who happened to catch me on camera today. Yeah, the cameras caught me today, caught me smiling. So got to give a shout out to JD as well. Once again, thank you all for your continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. I got to get out of here because they're going to change over for a concert. Once again, thanks so much. For Locked On Gulls, I'm Jason JD Hernandez saying have a great rest of the late night. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks and Gulls fly together. Yeah, they do. There we go. Hope to see you all at Acrisure Arena soon. Caw-caw, caw-caw.